Mangione, the guy who ostensibly killed the CEO of United Health, was extradited to New York. And we're going to show you a picture of this. I mean, this is obviously a made-for-television event and media. We have a clip. We have. I don't know if we have video. Do we have video or just this picture? We don't need the video. This gets it. Look at this video. This picture.
It's crazy.
This is. It is unclear to me what it is that New York City or Eric Adams is trying to project. Now, you can see Eric Adams is over Mangione. I guess it's his
right shoulder.
Right shoulder. And we should say, I don't think that they're in equally hot water, but in terms of obviously the law. But the fact is that Eric Adams is also indicted. He is being investigated himself.
Right.
And
maybe that's why they needed all the security.
Yeah, like who is it for? Are they perp walking Eric Adams or this other guy? Like, I get it. I just don't understand what's going on. If they expect an attack to somehow spring this guy, and that's why they have, SWAT teams with, semi-automatic weapons guarding him, and they've all got Kevlar vests on. Why don't they have a Kevlar vest on him?
Well, you know why. I mean, this is a show of force. This is an intimidation display, in my view. And I think it's going to have the reverse effect. I think most people...
It's making him like a folk hero.
Well, it already is kind of, and this is just exacerbates it the more that they choose to show resistance to it or treat him like he's like bin Laden or something.
Let's put that picture up on the right. This is funny. Somebody compared this to that one. Yeah.
The Superman thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That apparently happened in...
they're filming. That's them filming the new one, I think, actually.
Okay, that's in a DC comic. Superman also held by more or less the same amount of guys. Now, to be fair, the New York City police were dressed in New York City police gear and not in camo. But more or less the same picture. It's absurd. Here is Jamie Peck. Formerly of the Majority Report, formerly of the Antifada. Now, the name of her show is
I want to get it right. Party. One second. I'll get that way.
Party Girls?
Yes. I think so.
And she was on Chris Cuomo's program, and I think she did a pretty good job. As far as I can tell, and I don't know what the motivations of people donating to this guy's criminal defense fund are. I suspect this guy has plenty of money to mount a defense. But the value, it seems to me, of doing this, and I imagine, this is what Jamie and the organizers of this fund are doing, is trying to continue the conversation that was clearly started about healthcare. We haven't talked about healthcare as a country in ages.
I mean, I think a lot of Democrats treated the Affordable Care Act as the end-all, be-all, and the solving of this issue.
Now we just got to maintain it.
But we do know, and that was what Kamala Harris was running on. And what's unfortunate is that, the knock-on effect of funneling more and more people into the private health insurance system, the upshot is that more people are insured, and that's a good thing. But it also allows for these health insurers they are now banned with the patient protection part for denying you for a pre-existing condition. But the incentive to deny you care is still there because they make more money if you're just paying insurance and they don't have to pay for your care. So it's just more people in that system, and they found other ways to get around it. And so people still think it's broken, and the Harris campaign, the Democrats haven't tapped into it at all.
The thing I find fascinating about this is obviously, Jamie's fund is about getting this conversation into the mainstream. But equally as obvious is Chris Cuomo's having somebody on to talk about this is just his way of getting clicks. So they're both doing it for, sort of like as publicity stunts, except for one person here is doing it, the publicity stunt, so that people get health care, and the other one is doing it so that he can expand his house on, the Hamptons or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Jamie Peck joins us now. Thank you for taking the opportunity.
Thank you for having me.
Help me understand, why is it a beautiful thing? Why do you support him assassinating another human being in cold blood?
So I was definitely joking a little bit, obviously drawing a comparison between what Donald Trump said about himself and the sort of explosion, this appetite, this excitement for the conversation that Luigi Mangione started. But I do think to call this an act of terrorism is an insult to the intelligence of the American people. Terrorism is something designed to strike fear into the hearts of non-combatant civilians, right? The general population. Nobody but a tiny class of CEOs has been made to live in fear by Luigi's actions, but nearly everybody knows what it's like to live in fear of having a necessary medical claim denied, the fear of having your life ruined or potentially ended by a stack of medical bills. And I think in a system with so much violence that's directed from the top down, it should come as no surprise when violence begins to boomerang back from the bottom up onto the 1%. Also, I would like to remind you on the subject of terrorism, nearly 3,000 Americans lost their lives on 9/11, right? This is the largest terrorist attack this country has ever seen. An estimated 190,000 people are murdered each year by our broken healthcare system. That is the equivalent of 52 9/11s worth of deaths every year. Every single week, another 9/11 happens. So I got to ask, who is the more prolific terrorist in this equation?
Well, first of all, as you may know, Jamie, terrorism is a specific legal standard, right? There's no question that Luigi did what he did in furtherance of a political agenda. He said it, okay? So I don't see this as a question of fact or law. It's about the policy behind it. What I don't understand, and you are somebody who in your positions is constantly trying to embrace the humanity of situations, right? I've been looking at why you support what you do with what's happening in the Middle East conflict. To me, this seems to be anathema to this.
Can you pause it actually
within
for a sec?
system.
I just want to make this point because that was generous. That was nice of him. But when he talks about her humanity in this sense, he's betraying that, or I don't know what his opinions are, but I doubt that he is a principled anti-killing human being. There are like a very small number of people on this planet that are in principle just saying, I keep bringing this example, Sister Helen Pragine, who is an anti-death penalty advocate, right? That's like the class of person who is in principled anti-violence. The question for 99% of the population, and specifically if you're in media or politics, is what violence are you against? And is it the stuff that you express outrage over, is it when violence is directed upward or is it when violence is directed downward? And based on the reaction to this killing of the healthcare CEO, you can tell a lot about people's politics, especially if they were justifying Daniel Penny's killing of Jordan Neely on the subway. So I just want to point that out because he's trying to paint Jamie as this extremist in her opinions on this front and saying this is contrary to her humanity. But unless you have a principled anti-killing position, you can't make that case.
This seems to be anathema to this. Nothing within a system gets changed by violence. How can you expect? Yeah, we're having a conversation, but we're not having the right one because the healthcare industry now has high ground because they've been victimized by this.
Pause it for a second. He can't possibly believe that the healthcare industry has the moral high ground.
Is that what they're all feeling these days?
I don't think that's. I mean, What's really fascinating about this, there's two things fascinating about this. And like I say, it's very helpful that she's on there. It's extending the conversation. It's making people think about it. But it is fascinating to watch this like sector of the media and the way that like it is. I mean, it's tabloid stuff. But it is fascinating how they're, you know, like even to sort of like generate a story here. The idea that somehow the health insurance industry, like how does that manifest itself?
And
Are there people doing vigils now out in front of like health CEOs' houses? Like, we got you. No, over our dead body.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like this is going to change things, but how does Chris Cuomo suggest that we get rid of the private health insurance industry? What is potent these days? Like, I think the government needs to end that industry entirely by having a public
100%, of course,
public health insurance.
Decommodify.
Yeah. Do we want to hear her response?
Yeah.
Our industry now has high ground because they've been victimized by this chooch. This isn't how we get insurance to be better,
Chooch?
by putting a bullet in somebody's head. Why would you get behind that?
Question.
Now, I've never advocated violence as a tactic for change coming from
You're celebrating the guy.
people that I organize with. This was a lone wolf act of violence on the part of Luigi Mangione, and it seems to have started a huge conversation among everybody about the violence, the death, and the murder caused by this broken healthcare system. Again, 9/11 every single week indefinitely until someone puts a stop to this madness. So we are here really to advocate for the thousands and thousands of people who have spoken up against an unjust and violent healthcare system, which is not a fact of nature.
Jamie, that's 100% fine. And by the way,
Pause it. I love it how it's like the way that he's. This is such a like. This is honestly. I wonder if this like if this is like the type of like phone call that Jamie would get like from her parents, like. Well, I'm not saying I agree. I'm not saying I agree with that everybody should have health care. It's fine for you to believe that, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just your mother and I are concerned that you are going out and like our neighbors came by and said like, what is Jamie doing?
Right.
Yeah, and Jamie's exactly right. Like, this is not something any leftist groups, from like the more anarchists to all the way to communists, they don't say let's go do individual violence typically. Like, and nobody says John Brown, there's our model for political action. But if you conversely say John Brown terrorist, people are going to raise an eyebrow at you and thinking you may be a neo-Confederate.
How about Nelson Mandela, terrorist, who was on the terrorist watch list until 2008? Is Chris Cuomo ready to have that conversation about why that was the case?
But Likud.
And right, well, that's a whole nother can of worms. But like the point there is like even Mandela talked about how violence might be necessary to create change. But you wouldn't have that kind of nuanced conversation about the role of violence in politics on this network, because he's trying to sensationalize it and have her on there so like a boomer audience is like, see, the kids these days, they don't get it. They're all crazy. And that's the role of what this is.
When the crazy thing is that we accept a system that is so brutal every day, and we look like we're going to continue it through another term.
All right, let's play just a little bit more.
That's 100% fine. And by the way, it's not new. Okay, people have been crusading against insurance companies, but there's no question we haven't gotten changes to the system that are necessary. No question. You're talking to one of them right now. I look this old because I am old, and I've been covering that system for over 25 years, and almost never positively. But you're raising money for this guy's legal defense. If that isn't supporting what
Pause
he did,
it for 1 second. I just don't mean to interrupt here, but again, but that but is doing a big thing. Like, Jamie, there has been absolutely no progress on this for 25 years. Believe me, I'm old. I've seen it. But I mean, why should you do this? Take this opportunity to draw people's attention to it?
Even if you had a problem with Mangioni's actions and wanted to condemn it in the harshest terms, you'd still also say maybe the state using terrorism charges and stacking up on that might be a bad precedent for the future going forward.
Oh, 100%. And look, the bottom line is the real story is about this, in my mind, is the way that the public has largely reacted to it. The real question here isn't why would you raise money for this and provide yourself an opportunity to talk about what the real issue is, that being healthcare. The real question is like, whoa, what have people missed that they didn't realize there was this level of anger out there? All right, just continue.
Money for this guy's legal defense. If that isn't supporting what he did, I don't know what would be. And again, as somebody who says what my interest is in seeing people treated humanely, you're raising money for exactly the opposite. I don't get the hypocrisy.
Well, I think everybody is entitled to a fair trial, including Luigi Mangione. And as we know,
he doesn't need your money.
Access to a fair trial is actually quite tiered based on how many resources a person has access to. What?
He's got access. You see who his lawyer is? She ain't working pro bono, I promise you that.
I don't know about that.
Well, we have not heard yet as to whether or not Luigi is going to accept these funds. If he doesn't need them for whatever reason, they're going to be distributed to other people who are facing political charges. But I think in this
Why
country,
don't you distribute
money is
the
a
money?
form of speech.
Oh, no, listen, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying you can't do it, Jamie. I'm saying, why would you do it? You have the right to do it. I'm saying, why is it right? Why don't you take the money and give it to people who've gotten screwed by insurance companies?
I think I need to refocus once again onto the murder and the violence inherent in this system that so many people all across the political spectrum, across lines of political difference, conservatives, liberals, Democrats, and Republicans are all excited and energized.
Raise money for that.
I think we've got enough. I mean,
raise money.
So we already played this, but this is what Cuomo's doing. You said like it's like her talking to one of her parents. This is exactly this comedy thing here of this kid getting into his car with his mom. And,
Oh, yes.
And his mom's reaction is exactly what Cuomo's was.
We played this before, Sam. It's pretty great. So this is before he got caught. Yeah.
And the mom doesn't believe what catches on what he's doing late, right?
Yeah.
Hello, Mumsy. How are you doing?
Jake, go back. Change. No green jacket, no hood. This is serious now. A lot of people have been DMing me, messaging me. You have to go back and change. This is not funny. Are you listening to me? This is not a funny situation. Please listen to me. Jake. Oh my God.
What?
What don't you understand?
Oh my God!
Let him live. Crime. You need to go home and change.
The person that it was done to did a lot worse, okay? To the entire country.
I'm not negating
To the
that.
entire
I
country.
agree with you. However,
I agree.
He's doing that, right there. Held it like that's what he's doing.
Because that's what all they had was that shot.
But that is honestly that's what
I agree
Cuomo's
with
doing
you,
here.
but right.
I'm not negating that, but
that.
just like slow your roll a little bit.
And that's the energy there. But
good for Jamie. That came off well, I think, and
agreed.
Gets the message out there. I wish it was on a bigger platform. It would have been funny to see that, I don't know. Maybe News Nation. I don't know.
They're doing their best.
If the people watch that, they probably get more viewers than we do, and they were probably really shocked by it. Actually, that's the thing. You go into that situation, and it's really that's the formula there. These young people, they're not getting it. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.